Oh, thank you so much for agreeing to being on the podcast. I'm sure it'll be really helpful for the listeners to hear about your journey of overcoming people pleasing and just the benefit of that, really, to encourage others. Do you want to start by giving a bit of an intro to yourself, a bit of background, or?
Yeah, of course. Well, thanks for inviting me. Honestly, when you posted about people that were former people pleasers and to talk about it, I went, "Ooh, that's me. That's absolutely me." Unapologetically going forward, but still, there's always little bits of people pleasing left over, I'd say.
Yeah,
So yeah, my name is Matt Hassan. I am currently in the process of becoming a therapist, with I'm hoping the focus being on a combination of humanistic, kind of people, person-centered, existential potentially, and psychodynamic. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm
amazing.
hoping to go. Still very early days. I'm going to go with my level three counseling training soon. Currently work for a remote company where I offer single session therapy to callers through their EAP, so employee assistance program. And then I help people get signed up for therapy. It's a very rewarding job. I think it's an
Yeah.
excellent introductory or segue into therapy just because it's about helping people, but not doing it over a long period of time. So it kind of helps to get in the practice of helping people in a very sustained amount of time.
Oh, brilliant. I'm always seeing on your Insta stories about the things that you're doing and the achievements. Like 2024 for you was massive, really, wasn't it? Because you set out to get qualifications and training. I was like, oh my God, how'd you fit all that in? As well as all
Uh,
your gardening you do.
Well, you know what? It's really funny. It's actually kind of perfect because in some way it was the not end result of people pleasing, but it was the kind of the almost the antithesis of people pleasing, if that was the right word to use. Because prior to pursuing all those goals, for we're talking like 15 something years, I had gone on this long journey about trying to please my father. And I'm sure we'll get all into it. And then basically at the end of 2023, I did the opposite of people pleasing. I finally decided for myself what I wanted to do, not for
Amazing.
someone else's benefit. And that was getting my degree, volunteering for organizations, and then saying, I'm going to do this because I'm very determined. That
Yeah.
intrinsic fulfillment.
I can definitely get the determined vibe from you, which is ace. I love it. It's dead
Thank
inspiring
you.
as well. So I suppose in terms of getting into it,
Yeah.
when did you realize that you were a people pleaser and that it was holding you back? Was there a particular point or?
So I had a traumatic coming out experience where it was very, very uncomfortable, and it was kind of hard where the people that you know and grow and love with your
Mm.
parents, or maybe don't, and they kind of reveal about how they feel about you coming out, which, I, having the knowledge I have now, I understand they were just using the knowledge they had at the time with their upbringing and their
Yeah.
genetics. So the way they reacted was fine. Anyway, so after that, what happened is I went on this very long subconscious journey where I was taking on different roles and different careers and trying to get all these achievements as a way to please my parents or my father. Because I thought to myself, if I do that, if I achieve these goals, and therefore I'm going to win that love that maybe I've been
Yes.
seeking for all these years. So I think really the realization of knowing when I was kind of a people pleaser kind of really came into light around my early 20s.
Mm.
Um, and I remember the exact point just because I remember having this sort of can't go anywhere on my own. I need to have someone else with there to make me happy. I need
Yeah.
to, if I'm going to go do something, I have to make sure that, it's someone else's, that they approve of what I'm going to do. And there's all these things that I realized I was so dependent on someone else. And I felt this sort of, I'm going to die alone something. And always
Mm.
this thinking about there's someone else. And I thought, why am I doing this? Why am I so concerned about someone else in my life?
Mm.
Not that I'm antisocial, but
Yeah.
I just didn't understand why I had this dependency. So I
Yeah, it can
think
be
that
so
was
subtle sometimes, can't it, as well? Like, gradually like become more and
mm,
more ingrained, this like seeking approval almost. Mm.
yeah, exactly. And I think it wasn't until therapy a couple of years ago where I think I realized, but it was the transparency or putting it out into words, out into the void, if you will, to say, yes, I was a people pleaser. Yes, I was doing this for this
Mm.
reason. And actually, yes, I have control over this.
Well, I was going to say, was there a specific moment that you realized?
This is going to sound very silly, but you know what? No, it's not silly because it was very pivotal for me. Is that I think I was 24 years old or 23. It was whenever the movie Eat, Pray, Love came out. I love, 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 love that movie. I don't care if it got bad reviews. I don't care if people don't like it. I
Yeah,
don't care if it's in a popular opinion. I love Eat, Pray, Love because I
own
remember
that.
going there by myself
Hmm.
for the first time for on a movie. And it's, about Elizabeth Gilbert and how she goes through this whole process of rediscovering who she was and
Yes.
relearning about everything in her life and saying, actually, no, she kind of in a way goes through people pleasing or rediscovering that actually, no, I can take care of my life and I need this love of someone else. Anyway, it was kind of at that moment where I went, oh, I'm having this emotional reaction to this for a reason. There's something embedded in me. And I think
Yeah.
it's the people pleasing.
Oh, there's definitely something, isn't there, about sort of observing what's going on for ourselves in
Yeah.
certain situations and being curious about our responses to things that really then start giving us the answers. What would you say helped you then free yourself from people pleasing?
It was kind of an ongoing discovery and process through my mid 20s to my early 30s ish or so, relinquishing this sort of feeling that I needed. I don't want to say approval from others, but that my public image or the way I put myself out there and did things like go to the
Mm.
cinema by myself, go to dinner alone out by myself, which I love doing
Oh,
now.
I love
So much
that. Honestly,
fun.
I love doing that. And sometimes
Yeah.
people are like, "What? You went on your own?" And I'm like, I'd be curious about that reaction.
I know. It's like, why don't you feel comfortable being alone? Like, it's one of those things where I explore. It says, I've seen you have a reaction to this.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was kind of, yeah, it was those sorts of things that helped me to go, okay. So it was finally realizing that I've always had this belief in my life that I was never going to substantiate my life or determine my life of other people of their wants and needs. I
Mhm.
always thought to myself, why do I have to live by someone else's standards? I've had this belief for a long time, but I never actually put it into practice, I think. I just always
Yeah,
thought about it. I believe that if I went through life always trying to do something for someone else's approval or someone else's wants and needs, I was never living for myself.
yeah,
And so it was basically me putting that into practice and saying, actually, no, you're going to go do this and you're not going to do it for someone else. You're not going to go do this because someone else is going to view something differently about yourself. It's not about them. It's
hmm
what I want to do. And that doesn't make me selfish. And that was so hard to tell myself to say, that's not a bad thing
yeah,
to do what your wants and needs are.
yeah,
What it is kind of in some way, you're putting up a very healthy boundary to say, this is what I need for my mental health. And it doesn't
yeah.
mean I care about you any less.
Yeah, that's what I always say, in terms like with the people that I work with, because that guilt, and I know myself
Yeah.
from experiencing it, feels so strong, doesn't it? And that sense of like,
Yeah.
oh, you're being selfish, you're being mean, or oh God, they're going to think awful of me. And that
Yeah.
guilt, like sometimes we take that to we assume from that that we're doing something wrong, but
Yeah.
it's not. It's just that we're breaking free from the familiar, aren't we? That discomfort signaling we're going towards the unfamiliar. And I
Yeah.
suppose with the guilt as well, it's signaling to us that we are breaking a rule, but it's
Mm,
not like a real rule. It's just these rules
mm,
that we've sort of taken on from childhood, from all the messages that we've
yeah.
received growing up and stuff, isn't it? So it's trying to like flip that, isn't it?
It's kind of the way I try to, when I talk with people about it, when they ask or anything, I say it's uncomfortable because you're, in a way, you're relearning how
Yeah,
to function as an adult all over again because you're taking the childhood part of you and not necessarily getting rid of it, but you're saying that's your old way and you're trying to relearn all over how to be an adult in a new way. And it's very hard because you're basically trying to tell you're almost your younger self, that's great and all, but this is not how you are. And that's very hard to do. It's
yeah,
very hard.
yeah. And I often find people find that tricky at times because
Mm,
they might not have that compassion for themselves. So sometimes
yeah.
it's even framing it of like this rule, if the rule is something like other people's needs are more important than mine or feelings are more
Mm,
important than mine, would you impose that on like your son or daughter or your loved one? Would you want them to live
mm.
by that rule? Obviously, they wouldn't, especially us people pleasers.
It's true. It's
Um,
true.
so it sounds like what really helped you was the therapy, increasing your awareness
Yeah.
of how things were manifesting for you and actually having that moment of, oh yeah, people pleasing. But
Yeah.
also, I suppose, doing the work yourself in terms of the everyday stuff of checking in with yourself, being
Mhm.
curious, am I doing this for me or for someone else? And then trying to do more stuff basically for what you want to do.
That's 100% it. I
It
think
makes
it
it
was,
sound so easy, doesn't
yeah, it
it?
sounds easy, but this is because I'm going on 38 this year. And so it's, I try to remind people to be kind to themselves as easy as it sounds, because it's going through people pleasing and just growing as a human is a never ending process. And I don't always have it together. I still have people pleasing tendencies, but I
Mm,
also learn to be aware of them, to observe them. And then when they do happen, without intellectualizing it too much,
yeah.
um, I try to sit with the emotion and go, why is this bringing up? Why is this bringing up? What is it reminding me of in the past? And then I go, okay, I'm doing this because subconsciously I'm trying to please this person. There's nothing wrong with that, but let's reframe it to say, am I doing this for myself? And how can I approach it that way? So that's what I try to do.
That really sounds very similar to what I do as well. And that sense of what I loved about what you said there was that you're not beating yourself up for
Mm-hmm.
still noticing when the people pleasing's coming out. Because, like we were saying before, when I hit record on this, like there's sometimes the tendency for me, like I still notice when I say sorry, and
Yeah.
like some of the ingrained habits still come out
Yeah.
regardless of all the work I've done on myself and practicing what I preach. But it's just like you say, checking in on that, noticing it, being curious about it. And also just like, I'm noticing, I'm acknowledging it without that judgment. So important, isn't it?
I try to say that just to add a little bit. That's what I try to tell people when I'm doing my sessions as well, is that they'll mention they're feeling X, Y, or Z. Maybe not necessarily people pleasing, but just they're feeling a certain way. And they beat themselves up over it. And they're so hard on themselves. And I say, it's okay to feel that way. I said, given your upbringing, your experiences, your the partner you're with, your genetics, everything, also known as the biopsychosocial perspective, which I love that so
Yeah.
much. I said, it's your feelings are very valid for what's going on. It's okay to feel that way. But what I'm trying to tell you is feel those emotions, acknowledge them, maybe do a little kind of soul searching, but then go forward. Don't try to say,
Yeah.
no, I shouldn't feel this feeling. Because the worst thing you could do, you're basically telling yourself, it's not okay for me to feel this way. And who knows, that can lead to more repression or anything else. So I said,
Oh,
be
definitely.
kind. Be
Yeah,
kind to
there's
yourself.
such a power in the acknowledgement of situating the feelings, like you said, in the context through
Yeah.
of which they're coming through. You know, past experiences, the messages we've received growing up, the conditioning, and all that. Like, no wonder you feel that way, like
Yeah.
in certain situations. Who wouldn't if they'd been through that X, Y, Z? And it
Yeah.
just helps then unhook, doesn't it, from
Yeah.
rather than being in it, sort of stepping outside of it and observing it for what it is. It's so
Yeah.
powerful, and I love that.
Yeah.
And I won't go off on a tangent.
I know we both could do that, honestly.
Just love it. Um, what would you say have been like the benefits of breaking free, and like what's been most freeing, if you like, about living without that weight of people pleasing?
Not carrying the guilt for making my own decisions. I think that has been the biggest benefit since kind of deciding to put my needs and my wants first, not at the risk of other people's expenses, but just by putting up that boundary and saying, I'm okay and I'm worth it. When I go out and say, for example, and I do this actually quite often because I very much believe in the power of kind of self care, I will pick usually a couple days out of the month, usually sporadically because I don't want to plan that far ahead. And I'll say, hey, to my partner, I'm going to just spend the morning at a cafe. I just want coffee. I want, Panel Raisin, and I just want to sit there and exist. I want to watch people go by. I want to be on my phone. I want to read a book. And that's okay. I know you're at home. This is nothing against you, but I need me time. And that doesn't make me a bad person. It just means that this is what I need to do to bring myself back to what I feel is an empowered version of me, the one that feels energized, relaxed, and ready to take on and help those people in single session therapy. Because if I'm not at a
Yeah.
place where I'm good mentally or emotionally, there's no way I can help someone and be with them when they're talking about things like the abuse they're going through or suicide ideation. I couldn't mentally be there emotionally. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm more guilt free about it, if that
It's
was
so
answering your
important.
question.
And that's a great way of framing it as well, isn't it? Frame it more as like me too instead of me first is a
Yes,
helpful first step
that's
as well.
great.
Remembering how you were saying it then, it's like, what is the saying? Putting your oxygen mask on first, isn't it, in a way?
Yeah.
Like if you can frame it as
Yep.
that actually, if I do things for me, then I will be able to help
Hmm.
others. Not that we want you to have to
Yeah.
frame it that way, but it can be helpful, can't it, if the guilt feels too much initially. But I
Yep.
love that. Honestly, you sound very similar to me in terms of, I love going for a coffee and just not people please, people watching.
It's like a little Freudian slip. I was like, I don't do people. I mean, I don't do this.
I'm really sorry. People watching.
Exactly. Ooh.
So looking back, how do you feel about the person you were when you were people pleasing compared to the person you are now?
Looking back, it's actually funny because I've just completed an assignment. I'm on my final class for my psychology degree. Basically, this assignment is all about being reflective and talking about what you've learned for the culmination of your degree, which I love. I love this degree, and I'm not just saying that to make anyone feel happy. I generally love my
Yeah,
psychology degree. It's the
I get
most.
that.
Oh, If I could do more of that, I will. Which I probably will anyway. Anyway, the reason why I say it is what we were supposed to do, and I promise this ties into what you're saying. What we were supposed to do is pick from the pie of life chart, which are things like career, spiritual health, mental health, all those sorts of things. You pick 5 of them and then just reflect on what it is you learned from the different classes and how they have helped you grow in your life. So the way I approached it was different because you said it's open to interpretation, is I decided to take 5 of those and write letters to my former younger self and each of those areas
I love
because I
that.
thought that's applicable. And it's kind of like what you said. So the question is about how kind of my younger self and such. And that's how I did it. Not gonna lie, I teared up many times, but it was very cathartic and loving. For example, it's either the mental health side or self development category. I basically wrote to my 19-year-old self to say, you're going to go on a people pleasing journey. You're going to have a very traumatic coming out experience and you're going to want to do all these things for other people. But I'm trying to tell you to be kinder to yourself. Don't blame your parents anymore. It's valid to feel this way, but also you need to go on this journey. If you don't go on this journey, these traumatic years of depression, burnout, relapsing, and picking these careers, you wouldn't be where you are today, where I could write to you now and from the future saying, this is all going to be worth it. As strange as that sounds. And it was a beautiful moment because I mean, even just now it makes me just kind of choke up a little bit because it's so
Yeah.
hard, right? To your former self. It's
Yeah.
like writing to your inner child to say it heals your inner child a little bit to say it was okay,
Yeah.
but gonna be worth learning. Yeah, looking back on things and how they've become now, I'm happy they happened. I'm happy where I am. And regardless of how painful and challenging it was, I wouldn't be where I am in the UK, which I love. I wouldn't have met my partner. I wouldn't have arguably found my way to wanting to be in the mental health career field. I wouldn't have, there's all these different things, coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Yeah.
But I think it was all for the right reason. And I just embrace it and I love it.
Oh, I feel emotional now.
Sorry. No,
Gets
no, I'm not sorry. No, I'm not doing
it
that.
gets us every time. Is there a particular like mantra or belief you hold now that you wish you'd known when you were stuck in people pleasing that like stands out to you?
Ooh. I don't know if it's a specific mantra, but I think kind of goes back to what we were talking about, which is to just almost be unapologetically you in some way, but not in a way that feels, I don't know, unforgiving or kind of goes back to the boundaries of what we said is to say that it's okay to be you. If you are not the way that other people envision, that's okay. That's their vision and their expectation of what you are. And so I think it was after therapy and this continued growing, I think the biggest thing for me was realizing that when people say hurtful things, it's never necessarily a reflection of who I am. It's potentially more a reflection of maybe some of the pain or unresolved issues they're going through. And that's not using me as like a deflection to say, oh, there's nothing ever wrong with me. I'm a perfect non-people pleaser. That's not it at all.
No.
But instead of taking everything personally and saying, I haven't gotten your approval, I haven't done something that's going to make you happy, instead I go, wait a minute, is what they're saying valid to what I know that is true to who I am? It's not. Okay, maybe that's something they're working on and that's okay. Be kind to them, but also reflect and think, did this bring up an emotion? Why did it bring up an emotion?
Mm.
So I don't know if that was really a mantra, but basically is I remember reading about this was that whenever you're given a gift, let's assume that the gift is the thing that people say to you, whether it is a compliment or an insult.
Mhm.
You get the gift and you can choose to open and accept the gift or
Yeah.
not. It's okay. Sometimes we get gifts that don't really work for us. So think of it like that. So when people say stuff to us, look at the gift. Does that gift, whatever that wording was to you, does that really reflect who I am? Is that me? It doesn't. And that's okay. I
Yeah.
don't have to accept this gift.
Yeah.
And that's how I kind of remind myself when people say things to me so I don't feel like I'm trying to please them instead.
I think that's so powerful, isn't it? Just that realization that often more of a reflection of them or what they've got going on, or it's a them thing rather than a you thing. And that doesn't mean that we don't ever acknowledge our own
Yeah.
flaws or
Nothing's wrong with
mistakes or
me.
anything like that, like you say. It's not like, let's just put it on everyone else. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just so powerful to recognize that I think when you get to that stage of just self acceptance and knowing who you are intrinsically, it becomes much more easier, doesn't it, to be able to recognize that rather
Yeah.
than to doubt yourself and think, oh, maybe, there's such a power in that, I think.
I'm very honored that I was able to be invited to this, and I think because it was a big part of my life, and it's something I'm still learning through. It's I couldn't help but jump at the opportunity when you did it. So thank you for
Mm.
putting that out there. Because if anything, I hope in some way that someone sees all the great work you're doing, and they maybe in themselves might They may not have the courage or necessity to go to therapy, but at least they might know that there are other people out there that might be dealing with the same thing, even though it might not be known at the surface. Because to be honest, this is the very first time I've ever openly talked about it anywhere kind of online about my form of people pleasing. So I hope in
Mm.
some way that maybe someone else can take something away from this.
Oh, I'm sure they will. And thank you so much. I suppose this would be a helpful one, wouldn't it? What advice would you give to someone listening then who might feel stuck in that cycle of people pleasing?
It's okay. I would say take the time to be okay to be vulnerable with yourself and to maybe either write down or physically say out loud that I might be having challenges with X or with Y, or I'm starting to notice a pattern where I feel like I have to apologize. I think the very first step of it is actually openly acknowledging where we feel like we're having a tough time. And for me, I feel like that first step is the strength and the type of thing that people need. I know that I did. Just because we can think it all we want in our head, but the moment it comes out, it almost like gives it a weight to it, a reality to it. And so by doing that, I then hope people then can look at what's going on and go, I'm seeing this, I'm acknowledging it. What can I do to go forward? What can I do to be kind to myself? So instead of sitting with it and letting it weigh heavily on you, try to look at it, accept it, and reframe it. I'm a big advocate for reframing, not because I'm saying deny reality, that's not it.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is it's okay to feel, like I said, it's okay to feel these things before, but it's also healthy to look and say, okay, what am I doing going forward? What is my resiliency telling me to do? And where do I want to go? Because I'm not my past anymore. I
Yeah.
am my present right here. I think
Mm,
that's it. I
mm.
don't know if that answered the question. I feel like I just kind of go like this with my answer sometimes, but
It's fine. Honestly, it's all feels powerful to me and it will really resonate. And I'm sure the listeners will, be really grateful for you sharing your story, especially for the first time about it. I didn't realize that, so I feel honored. But I'm sure they'll find it so helpful and empowering as well,
no.
and encouraging for them. Where can people find out more about you or, have a nosy at what you're doing?
So I'm at the moment just on my Instagram page, which I'm very active on. It's a veggie gardener Matt, veggie underscore gardener underscore Matt, which kind of in the side note, I'm in the kind of process of considering to rename it just because it feels like it doesn't align anymore. But anyway, that's just a starting point, and I post all types of stories. Just post on there about a combination of kind of gardening and mental health because I just feel like they do. Well, no, I know they go hand in hand.
Yes. I'm
Um,
saying yes, like I'm a gardener, and from questions I've asked you on chat before that I'm certainly not. But yes, I can imagine they go very well together.
Yeah, exactly. So I basically try to encourage people to be open and transparent about their mental health and acknowledge
Mm,
just who they are as people. But then also, let's learn some gardening in there, saying, "Hey, look, go do this, go grow some
yeah.
stuff, and let's make it simple. Let's save some money, and let's look at the benefits of gardening for your mental health." Which there are tons of actual clinical research trials out there that actually substantiate why gardening is good for mental health.
Are you going to be doing like a series of reflective
Hmm.
questions and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have it right here, actually.
Don't start
Um,
asking me any.
No, no, it's fine. I'm actually going to be posting one today, surprisingly. And basically, I found this online, and I try to tell people over and over this is not sponsored. I just generally found this online, and I thought I'm going to do it. So it's a series called "We're Not Really Strangers," and the whole purpose of this is to basically allow people to be open and vulnerable about who they are, and to basically say that despite what maybe we put online or what we perceive from people outwardly, we're just all human beings, and we all have a connection somewhere, despite maybe our political differences or how we were raised. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, we're not really strangers. We're just all human beings with different experiences, and maybe connecting is what a beautiful thing can do, and allowing us to be vulnerable and stuff. So yeah, so I basically do that every other week or so I can challenge people to be brave and answer a question, and maybe I connect with another stranger in the
Yeah.
comments, or give them a chance to be open and vulnerable to just talk about who they are without feeling like they need to answer to please someone else.
Yes, amazing. And also, I suppose there's just adding on to that is even if they don't feel that they're at that stage of being able to answer publicly, self-reflection is just
Yeah,
as
that's
important as
it.
well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not even about remember, they don't have to please me to answer the question. I just try to encourage them kindly, but at the same time go, it's okay if you don't want to talk now. There is nothing
Yeah.
wrong with not answering publicly. In fact, I applaud both people for answering and not answering. As long as you've just reflected, then great, you've done the work
Yeah.
right there.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to have you here.
Oh,
And
thank you. And I feel like I need to ask you a question if I have time.
yes,
Oh, good. Oh, I don't know. Sorry, I didn't give you a pre-prepared question sheet or anything.
bracing myself.
No, no, it's fine. I want to go for kind of the same answer question that you gave me is when do you think people
Mm.
pleasing or when you notice that you were a people pleaser in your life and what did you do to kind of help to recognize and work through it in your life?
How
No,
long
was
have we
that
got? It's funny you asked me this question because before you came on, I was thinking and considering the questions I wanted to ask you and what I thought would be
yeah.
helpful for the listeners. And it did prompt me to reflect on my own journey.
Oh, nice.
And I was thinking about how I didn't know I was a people pleaser. Like that
Mhm.
term people pleasing would not have been, if I'd seen that on Instagram back in the day, I wouldn't have thought,
Mhm.
oh, I must look at this because I'm a people pleaser.
Yeah.
But then when I think about, all the people pleasing type tendencies that I talk a lot about on my Instagram and on this podcast, then absolutely it would have made me think, oh, I better listen to some more of this or I better look into this.
Yeah.
And I was just, it wasn't until I think I started my own course of therapy and reading up on stuff and just becoming more reflective of myself that I started to realize how deeply ingrained these people
Mm.
pleasing tendencies I had.
Yeah.
Um, and that I sort of put that label on it, if you like, of, oh, it's people pleasing. It really manifested for me in terms of, like the over apologizing, the constantly
Mm.
feeling like preoccupied with what other people were thinking of me, what they're feeling, how was I making them feel? Oh my
Yeah.
God, are they in a mood with me?
Mhm.
Even like my clothes, like I would never have dreamt of wearing something like this.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
was it was so, yeah, it was so ingrained. And it was really, for me, the game changer was really getting to the root of what was causing these people pleasing tendencies. Because these people pleasing tendencies were a manifestation of deeper
Mm.
stuff.
Right.
And it was working through the deeper stuff that really then helped me feel like I was in a place where I could start saying no, or I could just set boundaries. You see it all the time on Instagram.
Yeah.
Just say no, just set boundaries. And, I often think, yeah, if it was that bloody simple, we'd all be
Yeah.
doing it, wouldn't we? So I think that's, yeah, that was the game changer for me, was really getting to the root of it, doing the work on the root, and then practicing in my everyday life, practicing what I preach basically now, which is a whole host of different things, but
Yeah.
ultimately a lot of stuff we've touched on, and just bit by bit building my confidence. And I just feel like I'm at such a stage of self acceptance and just
Mm.
feeling how liberating it is to just no longer care
Yeah.
as much. I'm not saying I never care about what people think. Obviously, of
Yeah.
course I do. I'm human, but it's not overwhelming. It doesn't feel all consuming, and it doesn't
Mm.
dictate how I live my
Yeah.
life. And that is just such a power in that. And that's why you can probably tell I'm so passionate about what I do, and why I trained in multiple therapy
Mhm.
approaches. Because,
Yeah.
yes, CBT, which was my first core training, is amazing. And there's a lot
Yeah.
of evidence around it. And it's very, very good at like challenging thoughts and things like that and reframing. But like we've touched on in this conversation, we need to go deeper than that, because
Yeah.
you can't just think differently and all of a sudden you feel
Mhm.
okay. It's
Yeah.
really getting to the root is the key for me. Did that answer your question? I can't even remember what
Yeah.
the question was.
No, you did. And I want to thank you for just sharing that really personal side of you. And
Mm.
I couldn't help but really resonate with what you said about how, the just saying no thing was just, it's not as easy as just saying no, and suddenly you go, oh, I've said no. I'm no longer a people pleaser. That's not
Yeah.
how it goes at all.
Mm.
It takes time and it's recognizing those little bits here and there that you do that are and aren't people pleasing. And it was, I didn't even think or even consider this, but I did. And maybe do it today, but not really is the outfit thing because when I think about it, sometimes where previously I would put so much thought into my outfit, and that was because I wanted to get the approval and acceptance of others to say you're a valid person now, and we want to have you around.
Yeah.
And by doing that, therefore, I felt good. I've pleased them, therefore, I feel safe because I
Mm.
don't feel like I'm an outsider anymore.
Oh
Whereas now,
God,
when
yeah.
when I dress now, I dress because it is what I determine which is good for
Mm.
me. And yeah, does it look the way I want to outwardly? Of course it does. But the difference is where is the meaning in what's happening? And for me,
Yeah,
it's intrinsically saying, this is my style. This defines who I am as a person. And that
yeah,
makes me feel happy. So I
yeah.
love what you said about that. I hadn't even considered it.
There's so many strands to people pleasing, isn't there? And even with you mentioning that, now I'm like, oh yeah. And that also makes me think of how that was such a massive part of my own difficulties and people pleasing, low self-esteem, whatever you want to call it, that was underneath it all, was this sense of feeling like I had to mask who I was, and I would
Yes.
so good at changing my personality and shape shifting myself to
Hmm.
fit with the group. And I would
Yes.
find myself like nodding and like laughing along to stuff that I didn't feel like sit well with me, like stuff that didn't sit well with me just
Did
because
we
I
live the
wanted to
same life? Did we? Honestly, that's what I did.
I
Like,
just wanted
oh,
to
can I go to
belong.
communion? I can make sure not to have any disapproval. Oh yeah, oh, that's funny. It's
Yeah.
not funny, but I just want to, oh, good,
Oh,
approval.
this is feeling awkward.
Yeah.
I know, and I'm naturally like quite a smiley person anyway, and giggly
Yeah.
person, but it was like probably to the extreme in that sense with the nervousness that I felt at that time. And yeah, I just wanted to feel like I would fit in with the group. But ultimately, that then leads you to feeling completely the opposite of what you're going for
Yeah.
there because you're not connecting then with
Yes.
people who are on your wavelength. You're not finding your tribe
Hmm.
because no
Yep.
one really knows who you are. And it's
Yep.
not until you can allow yourself to be you that that allows you to find the people that you do want in your life and like the
Yeah.
authentic connections.
100%. That right there, that was excellent summary, culmination of kind of the takeaway. I swear that was perfect right there, the way you
Mm.
described that.
I feel like crying now. It's nice to be connected. Anyway, thank you so, so much for joining me. I have loved this chat, and I'm sure the listeners will be looking out for you in the future as well. With probably your own podcast, I imagine, at some point.
Well, I do hope to one day write a book, but that's we have a long way to go before that. But I want to thank you for inviting me as well. It's been an
You're
absolute joy,
welcome.
and I'm just so sad that we don't live closer in person because I would be 100% grabbing you and going say, "Hey, can we just have a coffee day and
Yeah,
just that'd be great."
yeah. And just people watch together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much.